Thank you, Micah. My name is Mark Blumberg, and I'm a charity lawyer in Toronto. And so I'm going to talk about this topic of public education and philanthropy. And specifically, there's amazing programs. And, Micah just talked about Connected North, which does all sorts of interactive experiences online through video and things with different communities up north. Uh, there's a lot of great programs out there, and it'd obviously be good if there was more of it. But the question, I guess, is, some of these programs are focused on the most needy schools. Some are just across the board sort of programs. Some are very innovative programs. Some of them, a lot of the things needed by schools are not that innovative. Like it's nice if, children aren't hungry and things like that, right? So basically, there's a lot of great programs, and more that can be done, obviously, and philanthropy can be a part of it. But I guess what I wanted to raise was an issue, and this recently came up in the Toronto Star. They had a big article on the Toronto District School Board, which is the biggest school board that we have in our community here, or the biggest one in Canada, basically. And essentially, the article was about fundraising for schools. And, it's not rocket science to work out that some neighborhoods are much better off than other neighborhoods. So what it means is that you have some schools basically raising a lot more money than others, and it starts to bring in certain inequity. There's already inequity, but it enhances it, unfortunately. So the TDSB had put forward a proposal that maybe if some schools fundraise, then they should, if they're in a better off neighborhood and raise more money, they should give some of those funds over to other schools. And that proposal, which actually our school, the nearby school here, has always been doing, which they raise money and then they give away about like half of it or something to other schools. I didn't think it was that controversial, but it is a very controversial program, and people are saying it's not fair and it's a tax and a tariff and a this and a that. But fundamentally, so I looked at the issue because I thought, what, let's just take this one example, the Toronto District School Board. It happens to be the biggest. I'm not saying it's average, or I'm not saying it's representative, but it is just one example. And with the TDSB, you have about $3.5 billion in revenue per year. And $1.5 billion comes from the province. Another $1.6 billion comes from the city of Toronto. And this is to deal with about 245,000 students. So it's a lot of students. Now, if you look at receipted donations, so we're not looking at government money, you look at $1.7 million in receipted donations. Money received from other charities, not even $1 million, it's 636,000. Non-receipted fundraising, that's all the fundraising that parents get involved with, where you're raising money at the school and things like that, fairs and things. That's $32 million. Okay, so in total, the philanthropy, the fundraising, all this sort of stuff is bringing in about $35 million. $35 million out of $3.5 billion. I am not very good at math, so I brought out a calculator, and that's 1% of the revenue. Okay, so just to give you an example, rental of land by the TDSB is about $23 million. Okay, so so the question is, should there be more? Absolutely, there should be more. But I'm first of all not so confident that there's going to be a dramatic rise. I mean, obviously it'd be wonderful if it did happen. But I think that, you look at other institutions, so not K to 12, but you look at universities, for example. Well, I'll take the biggest university in Toronto, University of Toronto, 4.3 billion in revenue with 90,000 students. And of course, you can't compare K to 12 to universities. They're completely different. But they get 86 million in donations and 82 million from other charities and 20 million from the informal fundraising. So you're looking at about 190 million versus 35 million by the TDSB. So 6 times more money. So I guess my point would be, yes, I'm all for more philanthropic support. There are so many wonderful programs. Some of them are such great value. They achieve so much with so little. But there is no replacement for increased government funding of, K to 12 and things like that. So we do need more philanthropy, but we need more government funding. And so I think part of the thing that philanthropists needs to think about is, do I just fund charitable activities, excellent programs, or do I also think about how can I fund advocacy around making sure that schools are properly funded. I'm often told that there's cutbacks and all this, and there's no more money in government. I hear this all the time, except we can see that government has money, and it sometimes is increasing the amounts that it's giving to certain priorities and maybe not increasing in other areas. So the point is that there is money there. But, how are we going to deal with it? If we spend 10, 20, 30 years and we try to build up like a university style fundraising network like the universities have, who are much more sophisticated at this, maybe we will raise a few more percent. And that's not bad, but it's really not a solution to the huge problems that you have in funding of these school boards and K-12 schools and things like that. So I think the approach of probably funding charitable activities and also funding advocacy to try and increase the amount of money that is brought in, so that in fact there is adequate funding for these schools, because it's a very important age, and very important that people are given that sort of start, and that sort of thing. So thank you very much, and I think it's certainly a wonderful topic to cover.